When he reaches out after silence, the first instinct for so many people is to react. Immediately, there's a rush of emotion, a little jolt of adrenaline, maybe even butterflies, because suddenly the person who disappeared is back. And in that moment, it's easy to forget everything that came before. The confusion, the disappointment, the overthinking, the nights spent wondering what went wrong. But the truth is, your first step is not to respond. Your first step is to pause. Just because someone reaches out doesn't mean you owe them access to you. In fact, the more emotionally intelligent thing to do is to take a moment and ask yourself, what do I actually want here? Not what does this text mean, or what should I say to seem chill but interested, but what do I want for myself? That one shift in your internal dialogue changes everything. Because when you focus on your needs instead of the noise, you become the one in control. It's not about playing games. It's about protecting your peace. When someone goes quiet and then reappears without explanation, you are not obligated to make it easy for them. You're not here to soothe their ego, feed their curiosity, or validate their impulse. You're here to decide, does this align with the standard I've set for the people I allow into my life? There's an emotional cost to being so available, especially to people who weren't consistent to begin with. And most of the time, when people rush to respond, it's not coming from confidence, it's coming from scarcity. It's that tiny voice inside that says, this might be my last chance. What if this time it's different? But that voice is lying. That voice is trying to trade your standards for temporary relief. You don't need relief, you need clarity. The pause isn't just about buying time, it's about regaining perspective. It's a moment to step back and remember how you felt when the silence first began. Were you left in confusion? Did you feel disposable? Did you give more than you got? Because if you don't honor the reality of what happened then, you'll start romanticizing the version of the person who just reappeared. Like that version might only exist in your imagination. Let's say he sends you a message like, hey, I've been thinking about you. That line might sound sweet, even nostalgic, but what does it mean? Thinking about you doesn't fix what broke. It doesn't rebuild trust. It doesn't explain why they disappeared in the first place. A person can think about you while doing nothing for you. They can miss the comfort of you without ever showing up for you. So instead of reacting emotionally, respond intentionally, even if that means not responding at all. Ask yourself, what has changed since the silence? Did he come back with clarity, accountability, and intention? Or did he just pop back in with a lazy message, hoping to be let back in without doing the work? You're not looking for effort in the form of a text. You're looking for effort in the form of change. A person who values you doesn't just reach out, they show up. And here's something most people don't realize. The longer you delay your response, the clearer your power becomes. When someone knows they can disappear and you'll be right there the second they call, they don't have to try. But when you make them wait, not out of spite, but because you're genuinely assessing your boundaries, you become someone who can't be picked up and put down at their convenience. You become someone who respects themselves too much to confuse attention with effort. Let's be honest. Sometimes the message you receive isn't even about you. It's about their boredom, their ego, their loneliness, their desire to check if they still have access. And if you don't pause, you'll mistake their impulse for intention, and you'll be right back where you started, unsure, unsettled, and overinvested. What if, instead of feeling flattered, you felt curious about their motives, curious about what they actually bring to your life now, curious about why they think they can come back without acknowledging the absence? Curiosity creates distance between you and the illusion. It puts your heart in check. And from that space, you get to ask yourself better questions. Is this what I want? Or is this just what's familiar? Am I being chosen or am I being recycled? That's where your strength lives. You've got to remember, your response is not just a message back to him. It's a message to yourself. It's you saying, This is how I deserve to be treated. This is the energy I will allow in my life. You don't rise by chasing potential. You rise by honoring your reality. That means if he comes back, you don't default to the fantasy. You default to your truth. The pause gives you the gift of memory. It reminds you of how silence felt when you didn't deserve it. It gives you the opportunity to ask, did he reach out because he missed me? Or because he missed the version of me that made things too easy? That question matters, because how you respond sets the tone, not just for the conversation, but for the kind of relationship you're willing to have moving forward. This is not about punishing anyone. This is about valuing yourself enough to say, if you want back in, you have to knock like someone who means it, not someone who disappears when things get real and reappears when it's convenient. And if he can't do that, if he's not bringing emotional maturity, effort, or accountability, then your silence is the answer. And that's the truth most people avoid, that you don't have to respond just because someone remembers you exist. Your worth isn't up for negotiation the moment they decide to text. The real question is, do they still deserve access to you? That's a powerful place to respond from. Your response begins the moment you realize you don't need one to feel whole. You know, it's so easy to get excited when we hear from someone we haven't heard from in a while, especially if it's someone we cared about deeply or someone who ghosted us, or maybe just faded out and left us in confusion. Suddenly, your phone lights up. It's his name, a message. Maybe it's, hey you, or been thinking about you, or the classic, how have you been? Do you think it doesn't have, and in that instant, your heart skips a beat. Part of you wants to smile. Part of you wants to throw the phone across the room. But let me tell you something important that I need you to hear clearly. That message, that little ping you just got, that's not a comeback. That's a ping. Let me explain what I mean by that. When someone genuinely wants to come back into your life, really come back with the intent to repair, to reconnect, to rebuild something meaningful, they don't just drop a half-baked text like, hey stranger. They make an effort. They show intention. They take responsibility because they understand that silence, especially after disappearing, creates distance. And that distance can't be closed with a lazy one-liner. But a lot of people don't understand this, or maybe they do and they just don't care. Because what they're doing when they send that vague little message isn't coming back. They're just pinging you. They're testing the line. It's the emotional equivalent of tossing a pebble into the water to see if it makes a ripple. They want to know, are you still there? Are you still accessible to me? They're not necessarily saying, I want to invest in this again, or I'm ready to be serious, or I've realized your worth. No, they're saying, I'm bored. I'm lonely. I'm curious. I wonder if you're still available to me. And here's the trap, because you missed them. Maybe you still have feelings. Maybe there was no real closure. So when that ping lands, your heart jumps and your mind starts spinning stories. Maybe he's realized what he lost. Maybe he's finally grown up. Maybe this is the beginning of something real. But more often than not, that ping leads nowhere because the person who sent it had no plan, no commitment, just a moment of nostalgia or ego or convenience. What I want you to start doing, what I need you to start doing, is stop giving so much weight to the ping. Just because someone has fingers in a phone doesn't mean they've earned your attention again. We live in a world where reaching out is effortless. People can slide into your DMs, fire off a text, send a voice note, and feel like they've made some grand gesture. But that's not effort. That's not pursuit. That's not a sign of growth or change. That's just activity. Don't confuse activity with intention. The real question isn't, did he reach out? The real question is, what does his message mean? And more importantly, what does it mean to me? Because unless that message comes with clarity, accountability, and a genuine desire to move things forward, it's just noise. It's emotional spam. And you don't need to respond to spam. You filter it, you block it, you move on. Now, I know that's easier said than done, because when someone you care about reappears, even if it's just a blip on your screen, it stirs things up. You remember the good times, you feel a glimmer of hope. But I want you to stay grounded. Ask yourself, what has he really said here? If all he's offered is a vague opener, don't rush to fill in the blanks. Don't start writing a romantic novel in your head based on a single shallow sentence. Make him work for it. Make him show up. Because if someone truly values you, they'll want to remove the ambiguity. They'll want to earn back your trust, not just your time. And let me be clear, your worth isn't measured by who texts you. It's measured by how you respond. Anyone can say, I miss you. Anyone can send a 2 a.m. you up message. That's not connection, that's access. And there's a big difference between someone wanting to connect with you and someone wanting access to you. When someone reaches out after silence, they should be stepping up, not just popping in. Well, what do? How do you respond? First, take a breath. Don't get swept away in emotion. You don't owe anyone an instant reply. In fact, that pause, that space, is powerful. It gives you time to ask the right questions. What do I actually want here? What pattern has this person shown me before? Does this feel like genuine interest or just a lazy attempt to reopen a door they walked away from? Be honest with yourself. If you do choose to respond, do it from a place of calm confidence, not need. You're not trying to win them back. You're not trying to impress. You're just communicating. Simple, direct, self-respecting. Something like, hey, it's been a while. What made you reach out? That one sentence, it puts the ball back in their court. It tells them, I see you, but if you want access to me again, you're going to have to show me why. And that's exactly the kind of energy you want to hold. You're not punishing them. You're not playing games. You're setting a tone. You're setting a standard. Because if someone wants a place in your life, they should be willing to meet you at your level, not pull you down to theirs. And if their response to that is vague, if they dance around the question or dodge it or throw out more fluff, you've got your answer. They're not here for something real. They're here for a hit of attention. And you don't need to supply that. Look, you're allowed to care. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to miss someone. But don't let missing them override what you know. A ping is not a plan. A message is not momentum. Connection requires more than curiosity. And if someone wants to come back into your life, they need to prove through consistent action they're worth letting back in. Remember, a message is not a comeback. It's just a ping. Let's talk about something really important when it comes to hearing from someone after they've gone quiet. Something that trips so many people up. It's the idea of matching energy, not emotion. Now, what does that actually mean? When someone you've been talking to suddenly pulls back, disappears, or just goes radio silent for a while, and then out of nowhere, ping, they reach out again, it can trigger a rush of emotions. You might feel excited, confused, even a little hopeful. And if you had strong feelings for them, it's so easy to let those emotions take the wheel. You start replaying old memories in your head. You think about the connection you used to have, the laughs, the chemistry, the way things felt when they were at their best. That emotional history gets reactivated the second you see their name light up your phone. And all of a sudden, you're not responding to this message. They barely said, hey, you're responding to everything you wish this message meant. But here's the problem. That's not how attraction is built. That's how people end up chasing illusions. Responding with your emotions, especially those rooted in the past, means you're showing up with energy that doesn't reflect what's actually happening right now. It's like walking into a negotiation and giving everything away up front because you're thinking about how good the deal used to be, not how it is today. So when he reaches out after silence, your job isn't to meet him with nostalgia. Your job is to observe, not absorb. What kind of message did he send? Was it thoughtful? Was it intentional? Or was it a lazy, low effort, hey you, that he probably sent to 3 other people in his contact list? That matters. Matching energy means recognizing the level of effort someone is putting in now and meeting that with the same level of investment. No more, no less. If he sends a vague, non-committal message, you don't come back with paragraphs. If he says, I've been thinking about you, that offers no context, no accountability, no next step, that's not something to emotionally unpack or celebrate. It's something to note. It's not about playing games. This isn't about pretending you don't care or trying to be cold or aloof. This is about having a healthy emotional boundary. You don't build value by showing up at 100 when someone else is barely showing up at 10. That's how you train someone to believe they don't need to try harder because you'll do all the heavy lifting for them. Let me be real with you. A lot of people reach out after silence, not because they miss you deeply, not because they've had some grand epiphany, but because they're bored, lonely, curious, or even worse, looking for validation. And the minute you respond with warmth and excitement that's disproportionate to what they gave you, they get that validation without doing any of the work to deserve it. Then what happens? They vanish again. And you're left asking, why did he even come back? When the better question is, why did I respond like he earned a comeback? Matching energy keeps you grounded in reality. It protects you from false hope. It creates space for the other person to actually show you who they are now instead of who they were or who you wish they'd be. And when you respond at their level, you force them to either rise up or fall off. There's no middle ground where they can stay comfortable with minimal effort. Think about it like this. If someone walks into your life and offers you crumbs and you respond like they just served you a 5-course meal, what message are you sending? You're telling them that the bar is low, that you'll take anything. That's not attractive. It doesn't make them want to step up. It makes them think they can step in and out as they please. But if instead you stay calm, measured, and you mirror the level of effort they're giving, you create a dynamic where their next move has to be intentional. Because now they know they don't get to skip the line just because they've been here before. And here's the best part. When you operate from that place, you feel powerful. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you are hard to get for the wrong people. You know your worth. You know your time is precious. You know your heart deserves consistency, not confusion. So the next time someone reappears after ghosting or disappearing, don't get swept away in the history. Don't let the nostalgia do the talking. Look at what they're actually bringing to the table right now. Is it vague? Is it lazy? Is it safe for them, but risky for you? Then match that. Not with coldness, but with clarity. Not with pettiness, but with poise. You don't need to chase anyone who left you confused. If they want another chance, let them earn their way back in. And if they're not willing to, that's not your loss. That's your filter working. Silence after inconsistency isn't rejection. It's redirection. You may miss him. You may still think about the way he looked at you, the way he made you feel, the way things could have been if he had just stuck around. That emotional pull, it's real. I'm not going to tell you to switch it off like it's a light. You're human. We build connections, we build memories, and those don't just disappear when someone goes quiet. But here's the truth. Most people don't say out loud. Your standards don't get put on hold just because someone you once cared about decides to suddenly pop back into your life. When someone disappears, whether for days, weeks, or even months, and then suddenly reaches out, it stirs something. You start to wonder, what does this mean? Has he changed? Did he realize what he lost? Should I give him another chance? And all those thoughts are understandable. But what often gets lost in that swirl of emotion is the one thing that actually protects your peace, your standards. You can feel 100 things at once, attraction, curiosity, nostalgia, but none of those things should override what you know you need in a relationship. If he's coming back without accountability, without clarity, without any evidence of change or growth, then what he's offering isn't a new beginning, it's a rerun. And if you didn't like how the story ended the first time, what makes you think the script has suddenly changed? The real danger in these moments isn't the message itself, it's the meaning you assign to it. We want to believe people reach out because they've had some kind of emotional epiphany. We hope they've spent their time in silence, realizing our worth, mourning our absence, and crafting a new level of appreciation for us. But more often than not, that text is not about you. It's about them. It's about comfort, curiosity, or even just boredom. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When you let feelings alone guide your reaction, you risk betraying yourself. You risk putting your self-worth in the hands of someone who already showed you how much or how little they value it. Think about that. This person had access to you. They had your time, your affection, your attention. And at some point, they chose silence. That was their decision. That was their standard. So when they return, your job isn't to immediately open the door again. It's to ask what has changed since then. Did he just disappear when things got real? Did he ignore your needs, vanish without explanation, and now just assume you're still there, ready to pick up where you left off? Because that tells you more than the actual message does. If his silence came without respect, his return needs to come with more than just words. You need to see consistency, follow through, and intention. That's the currency of someone who values you, not a 1 a.m. you up or a vague I've been thinking about you. Now let's be honest, replying feels good. It gives you a hit of validation. It feels like you finally have the upper hand. He came back. But if that validation comes at the cost of lowering your standard, then it's a short-term win and a long-term wound. Because the next time he disappears, and chances are, if nothing's changed, you'll feel that same sting, only deeper. And worse, you'll feel like you saw it coming. So instead of focusing on how you feel about him reaching out, focus on how you want to feel about yourself afterward. Do you want to feel proud that you maintained your boundaries, that you didn't accept less than you deserve? Or do you want to feel like you compromised, that you handed back your power just because someone knocked on the door again? And this isn't about being cold. It's not about holding grudges or playing games. It's about choosing alignment over attachment. You can still care about someone and recognize that they're not what's best for you. You can still wish them well and know that going back would mean going backwards. That's strength. That's self-respect. And that's what sets apart someone who lives by their standards from someone who lives by their emotions. Let me tell you something powerful. The person who truly deserves you won't leave you wondering. They won't disappear and then return like nothing happened. They'll be consistent, communicative, and clear about what they want. And if someone isn't giving you that, then no amount of history, chemistry, or romantic fantasy is worth sacrificing your peace. So the next time he reaches out after silence, remember this. Your emotions are valid, but your standards are vital. If you do choose to respond, remember this. Set the tone. Don't fall into the trap of thinking you have to tiptoe around him just because he's finally reached out. Too many people, when someone comes back after a long silence, reply in a way that communicates gratitude rather than clarity. They respond like they've been rescued from emotional limbo, like they've been waiting by the phone for this very moment. That energy, it hands over your power instantly. And worse, it rewards inconsistency. You're not here to reward silence. You're here to respond in a way that makes it clear you value yourself. And you're not just an open door that swings whenever someone decides they're ready again. That doesn't mean being cold or dismissive, but it does mean that the tone of your message communicates who you are now not who you were when he disappeared. When someone comes back after disappearing, it's easy to get swept up in the relief or the nostalgia or even the hope that maybe this time it will be different. But none of those emotions should write your reply for you. Your reply should come from strength, not longing, from awareness, not wishful thinking. So how do you do that? You set the tone with calm curiosity, not emotional investment. A simple message like, hey, it's been a while. What made you reach out? Huh? That's it. You're not biting. You're not throwing your heart onto the table. You're flipping the script and making him show his hand. You're not playing games. You're just not doing the emotional heavy lifting anymore. The reason that line is so powerful is because it does two things. First, it acknowledges that time has passed, that this isn't just picking up where you left off, that silence meant something, that time changed things. It puts the ball in his court. It makes him accountable for showing his intention. If he replies with something vague like just thinking about you or just wanted to say hi, that tells you everything you need to know, because real intention has weight. Real interest has a plan, and someone who wants back into your life shows up with purpose, not just nostalgia. When you respond with calm clarity, you shift the entire dynamic. You're not the one waiting for a sign of interest anymore. You're evaluating whether the person reaching out deserves a place in your life now. And that's an entirely different energy. You're no longer saying, oh my God, he texted me. You're saying, let's see what this actually means. And don't think for a second that this calm tone goes unnoticed. A confident woman who doesn't over-explain, doesn't gush, doesn't emotionally flood the conversation after silence, that's magnetic. That makes someone stop and think, wait, she's not jumping at this. She's not impressed just because I messaged. That tells him you're not waiting, you're living. That tells him you're not the same woman he left months ago, that maybe, just maybe, he has to earn the chance to speak to you again. Here's what happens when you don't set the tone. The moment he messages you, you reply quickly, enthusiastically, maybe even emotionally. You ask how he's been. You tell him you've missed him. You create a safe, welcoming space with no friction. And while that might feel like a kind thing to do, it unintentionally says, there are no consequences for disappearing. You can come and go as you please. But when you do set the tone, you give him a different message. You say, I'm open to hearing what you have to say, but I'm not going to emotionally invest until I know you're showing up in a real way. That changes everything. Because now it's not about him choosing you again. It's about you deciding whether his presence adds value to your life anymore. It's subtle but powerful. And it's especially important because, let's be honest, some people come back for the wrong reasons. Loneliness, boredom, ego, a temporary sense of nostalgia. And if your tone says, welcome back, I've been waiting, then you risk letting someone back in who hasn't actually changed, who hasn't done the work, who isn't ready to meet you where you are. But if your tone says, talk to me, show me who you are now, then you get clarity fast. And clarity is what you need. Not fantasy, not potential, not memories. You want to know right now who this person is. And more